Now, opponents of gay marriage like to claim that if same-sex marriage is legal, then churches will be forced to marry gays and lesbians against their own beliefs. But that's not true. The California State Supreme Court, in the gay marriage decision, actually wrote, "No religion will be required to change its religious policies or practices with regard to same-sex couples," but they say it anyway. Here's a great article by the Christian Examiner Online, which claims to separate fact from fiction. It turns out they're not really good with facts. Gay marriage supporters claim current California law exempts churches and other religious organizations from having to perform marriages for same-sex couples or conduct other services against their religious beliefs. Fact 1. New Jersey's Ocean Grove camp lost its tax-exempt status after refusing to allow a same-sex couple to marry on its grounds. Oh, so much wrong with this. First off, same-sex couples can't marry in New Jersey. This was about a civil union ceremony. So why did the Christian Examiner distort the facts? Maybe because it was the only way they could make a scary claim about Prop 8? Truth. Two lesbians wanted to have their civil union ceremony in a pavilion owned by Ocean Grove Camp. Truth. Ocean Grove Camp has a property tax exemption on that pavilion. Truth. Ocean Grove Camp won that tax exemption in the first place by claiming the pavilion was open to the public. Look, either you're open to the public or you're not. And if you're not, then you were lying when you applied for the tax exemption in the first place, and it's only fair that you lose it. Furthermore, Ocean Grove Camp didn't lose its tax-exempt status, it just lost the exemption on this one pavilion. And here's a twist. Ocean Grove Camp actually received hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money to do repairs on its facilities. So the local lesbians may have been financially supporting this group that excluded them. The key thing, though, is that the case was based on discrimination laws and had nothing to do with gay marriage. Fact 2. Catholic Charities in Boston was forced to close its doors in 2006 when it refused to place children in the adoptive home of same-sex couples. That's just a lie. The charity is still going strong. It would have been more honest, but less of a scare tactic, to say that they stopped offering adoption services. But were they forced to do so? After all, the Mormon Church still offers adoption services in Massachusetts, even though they don't place kids with same-sex couples. The difference is that the Mormon Church does not take taxpayer money, whereas Catholic Charities of Boston did receive state and federal funds. Now, they could have chosen to refuse the funds, but they opted just to shut down their adoption services. So apparently, religious freedom means the right to take money from gay and lesbian taxpayers while discriminating against gay and lesbian taxpayers. Also, once again, this case was based on discrimination law, not gay marriage. Fact 3. Supporters of Proposition 8, that's opponents of gay marriage, argue that if same-sex marriage is legalized in California, religious freedoms will be trumped by state law protections for gays and lesbians. Similar instances have emerged in the medical field, including a recent California court ruling against doctors who refused fertility treatment to a lesbian couple. In New Mexico, a photographer was fined for refusing to photograph the commitment ceremony of a homosexual couple. First off, nothing to do with gay marriage. This is all about discrimination law. Gay marriage wouldn't change things one way or the other. Have you noticed that the Christian Examiner has not brought up one relevant example yet? Now, about those discrimination laws. Obviously, anybody taking taxpayer money should not be discriminating. But I do have some sympathy for the photographer. Unlike some of my more progressive friends, I think that private individuals should be able to choose who they work with, even if I find those choices repellent. But my sympathy evaporates when I think about the hypocrisy of these Christian alarmists. Consider a gay doctor who didn't want to give fertility treatments to a conservative Christian couple because she didn't think a child should be brought up in an environment that often leads gay teens to commit suicide. Or what about a gay photographer who was approached by a couple that was active in a church that had worked to strip him of his marriage rights, and he felt like it would just be adding insult to injury to have to go to that church and photograph that wedding. That photographer and that doctor, they could be sued for religious discrimination under the same discrimination laws. But you don't hear conservative Christians going to bat for their freedom. That's hypocrisy. They have absolutely no moral high ground here. Now, I've gone into some detail on these 4 examples, because you're going to be hearing about them again and again in the gay marriage debate. But why? Why does the religious right keep coming back to these same few, feeble, dishonest, irrelevant, or hypocritical examples? Because it's all they've got. Now, if history repeats itself, some people will accuse me of attacking Christianity by saying this, or being an anti-Christian bigot. And it's not true, because the Christian church is not unanimous on this. Some churches want the right to marry gays and lesbians. And that's an important point. What about their religious freedom? What about their freedom to conduct these marriage ceremonies? So here's the anti-gay position. Government dictating who churches can marry equals religious freedom? Churches deciding who they will marry equals a violation of religious freedom? Does that seem right? Reverse it. Doesn't that make more sense? So when you hear people complaining about gay marriage and religious freedom, first remind them that religious marriage and civil marriage are two different things. But if they persist on holding to the belief that marriage is primarily a sacred institution, then ask them if they think that the government should be in the business of dictating to churches what is sacred, or if that decision should be left to churches, their clergy, and the faithful. Support religious freedom. Support gay marriage.